It's almost 2023. How are you feeling?
Like it's almost 2023.
Like it's almost 2029. So always at this time of year, one of the things that we do is we look back, we see what happened, and we try to think about what's going to happen next. And I think going into a year like this, where we know there's probably a recession coming, we're already in it to a certain extent, there's a lot of moving pieces, but people don't always know what to do. So I want to break down maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 of the different things that we think will happen, but also how we can help dealers overcome them. What do you think?
Yeah, let's go. What's number one?
Number one is, and this was one of the things that if we look back to me in January of 2022, is continuing to happen. I think we'll see more and more dealer franchisee pushback against OEMs. Would you agree?
Yeah. And I mean, we're already seeing that where some of the state associations, I can't remember how many there are, but there are state associations. And I'm sure we're seeing it in Canada where the associations are saying, skirt, hold on. No. That thing, you probably should have consulted with us to begin with. And so my aside to your point number one is hopefully there will be a trend of greater transparency and communication between OEM and franchise network.
True. We were recently at a conference at ASOTUCON in Philly, and one of the speakers was talking about integrating. And I think this is way, way far out, not a 2023 thing by any means, but integrating from the OEM to the dealer from the point of the vehicle being built. It's ordered, it's being built. Here's a status updated every step of the way. And I think when we get there, that would empower individual franchisees to do so much more around their customer experience and allow them to work more closely with the OEM. Even if that end purchase style changes, it's not like dealers are going to fall off the face of the planet, right? So if we have them strengthen that relationship, that would be great. But I think that pushback, that revolution needs to happen first.
Yeah, 100%. And if we can avoid the Scion catastrophe at all costs, where like you think about how many, because we're seeing it again, right? Ford made all these big announcements, and then the Ford dealer body was like, what? No way. But we saw this years ago with Scion in Canada, where dealers forked out hundreds of thousands to reface their building and their showrooms, only to find out a couple months later that Scion was going bye. Yep. Right. And so I'm hoping that that pushback will be constructive, that it will open up dialogue. But I certainly do think that is going to continue into the new year.
Yep. And your point specifically about Ford leads me directly into number 2, which is more willingness and more openness to the discussion around EVs. We've seen OEMs push and say, hey, you have to do this OEM program. And we've seen dealers say no. We've seen them say yes. But I think now that we're seeing more market data come out around EVs, around people searching for EVs, that will inspire dealers to be more open. Love it or hate it.
Yeah. And this is actually opening up the narrative even to a degree that we haven't seen in the past few months, maybe even a year, which is like, hey, yes, EVs, but did you also know we're making massive investments in hydrogen powered vehicles? It's like, what? How you could have let us know. That's kind of cool.
It's killing me not to make a joke about corn being a beautiful thing right now.
But it's also introducing new entrants into the space as automakers. There was just a report, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. We'll link to it in the description. But they just announced like, hey, we're making big investments and we plan on entering this space with a new vehicle lineup, which I think is really, really cool. I think we're going to see some more entrants into the space. But also, I have to say, I love Toyota's perspective on all of it, which is like, yes, we are making big investments in EV and hydrogen. We just don't really know. Like everybody else seems to be pretty conclusive about how they think this is all going to end up. And we don't know. And I like just the humility of that answer.
Yeah, they do that for everything is kind of how I feel where when we were entering, touchscreens, when we were entering radar, when we were having all this new tech pop up for 2 or 3 years, and every time we did a comparison, our writers would go, "Oh, I really want to talk about the Tacoma, but it's kind of behind
Right.
on the tech or whatever it is." It's like they wait until they've really figured it out and then confidently launch whatever the thing is in every aspect of that business, which I mean, it obviously ties to their core values of quality and things like that. But I agree with that 100%.
Yep. Moving on to number 3.
Number 3 is we're still going to keep growing. So that's a nice prediction for everybody. I think we're going to see overall growth, but it won't be to the same extent that we saw the past 2 years, which is, I don't want to say the UP word, but it was something. It was special. It was unique. It's not something that happens for 2 years all the time. So we're still going to, if we look back at 2023 compared to 2019, it's going to be a better year. And I think if we can look at that big picture instead of just, it's not this same insane 300% growth that we might have been seeing, everybody will just be able to.
Yeah. I love the way that you position that because we need to be looking at our business like any other investment portfolio. Like it's only going to be up if you cashed out when it was up. It's only ever going to be down if you cashed out when it was down. But if we can look at a more sustainable long-term trend line, dealers, okay, maybe you were doing 8 million or 6 million during the pandemic and you're going to slide a little bit backwards to 4, but pre-pandemic you were only at 3. You're actually up 1 million over this period. So I really love the way that you position that. And I think that that needs to be a trend, not just a trend that we're going to be up overall, but hopefully my hopeful trend is that dealers and business owners alike look at their business portfolio over time.
Yeah, maybe that's where we can throw the OEMs under the bus with love a little bit, being always trapped in the 30-day cycle until the end of time.
Yep. Yep.
And there's so many, we could divert 14 different ways on that. But if we break away from that mindset, at least in our heads, I think that would help everybody be better off and better able to control the activities they're doing to facilitate that growth.
Yeah, 100%. I think too, there's just so many problems with this 30-day reporting cycle. Like I get it. As a business owner, I look at we close our books every month. We have to reconcile them. We make sure that, the expenses and things of that nature are in line. But to then get compared, like to have Flex compared against Cox or some multi-billion dollar like cars.com or something like that would be completely foolish, even though we're technically in the same space. So to have, a dealership in one, say the Southeast region in a small town in Georgia being compared to somebody downtown Atlanta or somebody with a bigger operation to begin with, who has buy centers, who does buy here, pay here, who has a bigger service facility, to be compared against them when I don't have anything remotely close to their resources, I think is completely foolish. So with that, I hope the trend is that dealers pay more attention to the context of their individual circumstances and start competing more against themselves. Hey, it was a 40 car month. What do we do to get to 45 next month? What do we do to get to 50 the month after that? What can we do to, so on and so forth?
Yeah, it's running, right? I want to run faster than I ran. And
Right.
something that we do a lot for our clients when they're looking at a new service or even a new prospect is coming and they want to predict potential outcomes, you should have partners that are willing to work with you or even connect directly with other businesses that are playing the same game you are. So we'll go and pull stats from dealers with similar sized market areas in more urban areas versus more rural areas and all these things where you can create a more accurate comparison and you can better harness what might happen as opposed to looking at a nationwide or an international stat that really could not apply to, I mean, there's this many over here and there's this many over here. You're somewhere in the middle.
Yep. Makes total sense. Moving on to number 4.
That's number 8. Come on now. What I'm seeing happen right now, which aligns with this potential growth, is that VAs are increasing in both performance and spend. And it's really easy to connect the dots there because what's happening is more players are entering the VA market. So using Google Vehicle Ads is what I mean by VAs. And because there's more people in that realm, it's still an auction. We're seeing budgets have to tick up to be competitive, or we're seeing the need to enter that market at a baseline with a matching budget in order to be competitive. And I think that will continue to happen over the course of the next year at a bare minimum.
Yeah, I love the idea of being able to see live inventory listings where higher intent searches are happening anyways. Like if I think about Facebook, while there's still a time and a place to round out the marketing mix, I know that there are so many people who the only reason they have Facebook is for marketplace. And they're
Mm.
looking for the DIY IKEA dresser that they can spray paint and, like whatever. But then we are also legitimately seeing people requesting information from Facebook ads. But when coupled with vehicle ads and Google, products as part of their marketing mix, like talk about this hyperloop of being able to catch people wherever they are and really tell a more complete story. I just think is so brilliant. When you couple high funnel with high intent, you are well positioned to dominate your market.
Absolutely. Which brings me to number 5, and I want to say it's my favorite, is people and process will matter more than they even did in the past 2 years.
Yes.
You got to maximize what's happening on the floor.
What a novel idea. People have only existed on this planet for what? Thousands and a hot minute. So I love that every generation, when they take their trip around the sun, ultimately arrives back at this place of, oh, people are the thing that matters the most. But you're right, like especially moving into a period of perhaps economic downturn, maybe we're willing to admit now that we're in a recession, despite what the media and everybody else is saying, we're not dummies. But what I do actually think is the silver lining to these moments and these circumstances is that it causes us as human beings to look deeper inward and say, hey, what's the fat that needs to be cut or trimmed? How do I lean up? How do I become more effective, more efficient? How do I skill up? And as organizations, I think we will see more businesses in retail automotive saying, okay, well, how do we get the best bang for our buck? I mean, we talk about that in another video about how to maximize marketing budgets in particular, but I think this feeds into it. People are going to be more encouraged to look at their mix and look at their processes and look at their structure and say, how do we make this run more efficient? How do
No,
we make the best of this?
yeah, it's easy to be Walmart on Black Friday. It's not easy to be the Bay on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. And we're entering Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. for the next bit.
The Bay. Fun fact about the Bay. Did you know that each one of their stores still have traditional beaver pelts that should the monarch arrive in the store, they can present as part of a ceremonial.
Okay.
Like,
Just in
I don't know,
case.
like just in case. So like, there you go.
Yeah, there's that.